Welcome to a guided meditation from Matthew 14, 1 through 12, based on the simple practice. You can take this time to put your phone on Do Not Disturb mode, or better yet, out of the room completely. Pause now if you need to take care of that, and rejoin when you're ready. I invite you to close your eyes and breathe deeply. Allow your body to relax. Quiet your mind. Minimize all noise and external disruptions. As mental distractions come, acknowledge each thought. You might say or think or journal, for example, I'm worried about, fill in the blank, or stressed by or distracted by, whatever it may be, and then release it to God. You might say, I release this to you, God, or I trust you with this, Jesus. If you're not sure if you can trust Jesus, you might say, help me trust you with this, Jesus. Pause now to acknowledge your distractions as they arise. You can write them down in your journaling space if that's helpful for you, and rejoin when you're ready. Having gotten comfortably settled and acknowledging the first wave of distractions, we're ready to start the practice. Bring your awareness to the Spirit of Jesus who is within you. Try to picture him there. Look into his eyes with love and see him looking into your eyes with love. Distracting thoughts are a natural part of this process. Each time they arise, continue acknowledging them, releasing them, and turning your thoughts back to Jesus within you. You may find that your mind spends more time on distractions than meditation, which is completely normal. Keep bringing your mind back to Jesus and the Scripture. And now we turn to our verses, Matthew 14, 1 through 12. At that time, Herod the Tetrarch heard the reports about Jesus, and he said to his attendants, "This is John the Baptist. He's risen from the dead. That's why miraculous powers are at work in him." Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It's not lawful for you to have her." Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered John a prophet. On Herod's birthday, the daughter of Herodias danced for the guests and pleased Herod so much that he promised with an oath to give her whatever she asked. Prompted by her mother, she said, "Give me here on a platter the head of John the Baptist." The king was distressed, but because of his oaths and his dinner guests, he ordered that her request be granted, and had John beheaded in the prison. His head was brought back in on a platter and given to the girl who carried it to her mother. John's disciples came and took his body and buried it, and then they went and told Jesus. Today in our guided meditation, we're going to use a practice called TACS, which stands for teaching, adoration, confession, and supplication. You'll find this practice on your instruction sheet in the Meditate Thought box. If you need a copy of that instruction sheet, you can find it linked in the description below. We start with the teachings of TACS. When we're looking at teachings, we look for what this text might tell us about Jesus or God or the Spirit, meaning who they are or what they do. We can also look for what the text teaches us about humanity or ourselves, who we are or who we should be. Pause now and journal any teachings that you think you might see in this text about who God is and or who humanity is or who we should be. You can even address your journaling to Jesus if you find that helpful. You might write something like, "Jesus, I think you're showing me," whatever the teaching is. Spirit of Jesus, we know that you are within us and around us. We invite you to guide our minds. Pause now to journal any teachings you notice and rejoin when you're ready. This story is awful, and it seems hard to imagine this sort of evil playing out the way it did. But we learned in the Sermon on the Mount in Matthew chapters 5 through 7 how actions are an expression of what has been taking place in our hearts. And Jesus is calling us to a true inner alignment with Him and His goodness that changes us to our very core, not just our actions. If we look at what Scripture says about Herod, Matthew leaves us some clues as to what might have been going on in his heart that may help us reflect on our own hidden hearts, seeing teachings about humanity and ultimately ourselves. Let's unpack this. I'll read a piece of the Scripture and then follow with a teaching that I noticed. After we've identified the teaching, we will then look for adorations, confessions, and supplications for that teaching. Martin Luther described this as weaving a garland as you wrap the adorations, confessions, and supplications around the teachings. Let's look at verses 3 and 4. Now Herod had arrested John and bound him and put him in prison because of Herodias, his brother Philip's wife. For John had been saying to him, "It's not lawful for you to have her." For the purpose of this guided meditation, we will look into a couple of teachings I saw. Feel free to go back to the teachings that you've already identified after you're done here with this guided meditation. One teaching that I see here about humanity is that we act out of selfish gratification, believing that we should get what we want against what we know to be right. With this teaching, what do you see to adore about God? Pause now and journal at least one adoration about God related to this teaching. We act out of selfish gratification, believing we should get what we want, even against what we know to be right. Rejoin when you're ready. God, I adore the reality that you do not act out of selfish gratification. Just the opposite. You act out of complete mercy and kindness and infinite love. You never go against what is right to get what you want. You are completely trustworthy. Now we turn to confession, the C of tax, in light of this teaching. Reflect on your own life, perhaps looking specifically at the past 24 hours or even week or longer. Spirit of Jesus, please guide our insights, not in a sense of shame, but honestly looking at our reality. Pause and pray and journal, and as you think about what you would like to confess related to this teaching, and rejoin when you are ready. When have I acted out of selfish gratification, believing I should get what I want against what I knew to be right? Finally, we turn toward our last movement of tax, supplication, which means asking for things, related to the root word supply. In fact, asking for things is probably our most common mode of prayer. But in this context, it's a little different because we're asking God for things in the context of this scripture and this teaching. What would you like to ask God for in light of the reality that we act out of selfish gratification, believing we should get what we want even against what we know to be right? Pause now to pray and journal and rejoin when you're ready. God, I pray that you will open our eyes and hearts and show us our true motives as you make us into your new people from the inside out. We open our hearts to you so that you may use your sword of inconceivable love on those ugly things inside of us. We ask and trust you to bring us to your liberation and freedom from our own selfish gratifications. Now let's try one more tax garland, looking at verse 5. Herod wanted to kill John, but he was afraid of the people because they considered John to be a prophet. One teaching that I see in this verse is that we as humans want to hurt others when they call us out, make us feel embarrassed, or hurt our pride. Moving to the A of tax, adoration, what would you like to adore about God in this teaching that we as humans want to hurt others when they call us out, make us feel embarrassed, or hurt our pride? Pause and rejoin when you're ready. God, I've been against you in my heart and in my actions and made you look bad countless times. But rather than hurting me, you've scooped me up, tended to my wounds, bandaged me, carried me to safety, and restored me. Oh God, I love you. Thank you. Now, as we continue to wrap the garland around this teaching, let's move to confession. Perhaps thinking specifically to the last 24 hours, where you have wanted to hurt others when they called you out, made you feel embarrassed, or hurt your pride. Pause and journal and pray and rejoin when you're ready. Jesus, thank you for your forgiveness and your rescue. I graciously accept and receive it. Help me. Finally, we turn to our last strand of this garland, the S, supplication. What would you like to ask God for relative to this teaching that we want to hurt others when they call us out, make us feel embarrassed, or hurt our pride? Pause and rejoin when you're ready. Jesus, I ask that you will renovate my heart, that I will look more and more like you on the inside and the outside every day, not driven by a desire to look good or be esteemed or defend myself, but filled with your love and beauty. As we wind down, let's circle back to the end of this section, verse 12. It says, John's disciples came and took his body and buried it. Then they went and told Jesus. After all this evil comes from the corrupted heart, we see that the disciples of John come, probably in deep mourning, to bury the remains. And then where did they go? Straight to Jesus. In their heartbreak and misery, they go to the source of all life and of all love, the true anchor. And now, after we've seen some of the truths of our own heart, we also run to Jesus. Jesus, we praise you that you are here for us to run to. Thank you that you have not left us as prisoners to our own sin. We gratefully receive your forgiveness, and we give you ourselves. We do not want to be dark inside. We want to be filled with your light. Please, Jesus, transform us. Please show us how to take steps towards you. Pause now as you receive his forgiveness and invite the Spirit of Jesus to speak to you about any steps he wants you to take. As we look back at our reading, we see Matthew leaves this section as we hang in the balance. Matthew has set up this evil event, unfolding one dark turn of the heart after another, and he brings it to the feet of Jesus, Herod's moral opposite. How will this man, who is pure love into his deepest core, respond? We will find out tomorrow. Jesus, we await you. We await the light that you will bring into this darkness. We open our hearts to you in anticipation. Winding down, let's take a moment here to identify a jewel or a gem from our time of meditating on the Bible today. Looking back over these verses and the places he's led your mind in journaling, can you identify a word or a phrase or a verse that stands out to you? Or feel free to choose more than one if you'd like. Pause now and rejoin when you're ready. Spirit of Jesus, please show us a gem that you want us to carry with us. There are a number of gems that I could select here. It could be mercy, tending my wounds, carrying me, running to you, my true anchor. But I think for today, I'm going to choose completely trustworthy. Unlike our ruined hearts, you are completely trustworthy. And I look forward to your renovation of our hearts. Now, I would encourage you to find a place that you can jot this gem down and take it with you today. A Post-it note, a little notebook you can take with you, or perhaps a note on your phone. If you have a special notebook or a spot to write your gems down, you can continue to add your new ones as they come to you in future days. And you can see these gems come together to form a beautiful mosaic of his work in you as you walk through Matthew. In closing, I'd like to read Malachi 4:2. But for you who revere my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise, with healing in its wings. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall. We praise you, Jesus.